The craziest moon clan grots, known as loons, gather great packs of fang-mawed squigs and herd, ride and hurl them into battle. These thundering battle stampedes are known as the squig-avalanches, and they can sweep away armies far larger and more disciplined than themselves through sheer, deranged ferocity. Of all the Moon Clan grots, the Loon bosses are the most cunning, ruthless, spiteful, and bullying. Grots prize a sneaky streak above all else when it comes to their leaders, but it has to be backed up with a certain amount of muscle for those situations when a cunning plan goes south and the only solution left is to stick a nice shiny blade between your enemy's ribs. Thus, Loon bosses, as Moon Clan war bosses are known, tend to be the biggest and meanest of their kind, as well as being among the smartest. The Loon bosses' tribal importance and their tendency towards violence ensures that they have the pick of the best loot from every Moon Clan raid. So it is that, as well as being the biggest, the meanest, and the most conniving of grots, Loon bosses also wear the most resilient suits of armour, and wield the most vicious, and often sneakily enchanted, weapons. For many Loon bosses, having fought and backstabbed their way to the top of the pile is enough. They lord it over their lurk lair, and when there's fighting to be done, they lead the Moon Clan grot army, known as a scrap, into battle, and merrily throw away their underlings' lives, sure in the knowledge that there are always more grots to go around. Such Loon bosses sit upon their thrones of stone, fungus, and rusting metal, and are more than happy to rest on their somewhat fetid laurels. Then there are those Loon bosses who are truly driven. Some are fanatical worshippers of the Mad Moon, who have eaten one too many strange fungi, and have got the loony look in their eye. Others are genuine adrenaline junkies, who actually enjoy a good scrap, no matter how many sideways looks this may earn them from their lackeys. Some are simply ambitious creatures, who have reached the top of the heap, but still desire more power. All these motivations, and many more, may lead a Loon boss to claim a giant cave squig as his steed and attempt to ride it into battle. Giant cave squigs are huge, fungal beasts, with roughly spherical bodies, gobs absolutely cram-packed with blade-like fangs, stubby little legs that will propel them along in alarmingly swift bounds, and an irrepressible desire to chomp down on anything foolish enough to get in their way. More than one Loon boss has ended his days vanishing down the gullet of such a monstrosity instead of riding it to glory. It takes nerve, cunning, a force of presence, and an awful lot of luck for a grot to cow such a huge and aggressive beast. For those who manage it, however, the rewards are entirely worthwhile. Giant cave squigs are somewhat more intelligent than their lesser kin, not that this is saying much, and a suitably belligerent Loon boss can instill a brute loyalty in his steed that ensures he can ride into battle time and time again, with a gratifyingly reduced chance of being bucked, trampled, and then eaten. Moreover, these fungal beasts hit the enemies like a battering ram, thrown by an angry gargant. Those foes, simply not crushed or flattened by the squig's weight and impact, are soon caught in its enormous jaws and bitten in half, or swallowed whole. Meanwhile, all the Loon boss has to do is hang on for dear life, try to steer his madly bouncing steed in the right direction, and clobber any enemy stupid enough to remain in arm's reach for more than a moment. Cave squigs are spherical beasts, part animal, part fungus, and roughly grow to the height of a human's chest. Their defining features include squat but muscular legs, beady red eyes full of idiot aggression, and an enormous maw so rammed with foot-long fangs that it's a wonder they can even close their jaws. This they do with a snap like a man-trap, and pressure enough to crunch through solid rock, plate metal, and any number of minor impedients like bone, muscle, and sinew. Cave squigs spawn in the subterranean mazes beneath the realms. Some are purpose-bred by the Moon Clan grots in well-reinforced paddocks, but many more are caught by squig herders using long, wickedly pointed prodders. Herding squigs is a dangerous job, and ends up more often than not being messily devoured. Yet, for those especially hard-bitten grots that can pull it off, prestige with the local boss and a heap of shiny riches await. As well as making good eating, cave squigs are useful in battle. Formed into anarchic packs, they are herded towards the enemies by means of poking sticks, dangled fungi, crushing cymbals, and discordant squig pipes. Not only do these methods serve to keep the squigs moving in the right direction, but they make the beasts so angry that when they do hit the enemy lines, they do so in an avalanche of gnashing jaws and butting heads. Occasionally, the odd squig or three break off from the pack and go on the rampage amidst the anarchy of battle, but even then the carnage and panic they sow through the enemy ranks works in the favour of the gloom-spite gits. When fed a prepared brew of puff-gut balls and hob-splatter fungus, cave squigs bloat up with gastric gases that afford them a surprising amount of lift. This uncomfortable experience also makes them especially ill-tempered and even more ferocious, which is why it is even more surprising that some grots chose to ride these bouncing orb beasts into battle. No one is sure which maniac first decided to try riding a squig, but countless grots have since been devoured for their troubles. The luckiest, almost deranged, managed to hang on, however, and by dint of their suicidal determination, Moonclan scraps gain the use of some remarkably effective cavalry. Squig hoppers are held in awe by the majority of the Moonclan grots, who gather round to hear their largely fictitious tales of daring do whenever the chances arise. In truth, all the hoppers really do is cling on for dear life and try to steer their erratically bouncing steeds into the foe, where the creature's snapping jaws and ripping talons make short work of anyone unlucky enough to stand in their way. Some squig hoppers survive more than their usual battle or two before being devoured by their ferocious steeds, run through by a foe, or killed in some hideous bounce-related mishap. Known amongst the Moonclans as the Boing Grot Bouncers, these swaggering show-offs take to wearing moon-shaped helms, reasoning that no squig worth its salt would ever try to eat the bad moon. In some cases, this weird belief even seems to hold true. The rest of the time, wearing a big armoured helmet at least spares the Boing Grot Bouncers from solid blows to the bonce. In contrast to the less experienced squig herders, bounders become so good at clinging to their steeds in battle that they can actually spare attention to think about fighting as well. This they do with long poking lances, which, when driven by the meteoric impetus of a hurtling squig, punch through even the thickest armour to skewer the victims inside. This makes Boing Grot Bouncers excellent line breakers and shock cavalry, with the added bonus of seeing the look of horror on an enemy's face when the bounder's steeds bounce clean over the intervening obstacles to drive their charge home with vicious force.